All right, welcome to Thursday, 26th October, year of our Lord 2023. Tomorrow is the last day of your first first 9 weeks of your compulsory education career.
Wait, it's the first 9 weeks of the month?
It's the last day of your first 9
Mr.
weeks.
Frank, did you take his homework?
Last day of our first 9
I
weeks.
put it up top. I think I probably just put it on top.
Last day of our last day.
The last day
of our last
of your first 9 weeks.
Because you're in my grade book.
From what? From one of those
one of those
papers you have to do?
one of those-
Well, see all those papers back? Alina's here today, so hopefully we get everything in order. And I have to get, it's one of those I have to get it in order this weekend, though, because it's a deadline. You know how sometimes we don't get things done, but then when there's a deadline, it forces you to, and then next time you go, I'm not letting this happen again. So if you think it's going to end when you're 18 or when you go to college, unfortunately for some of us, it's an ongoing battle the rest of your life. I'm not going to let this happen again, Emma. I'm going to stay up on it. I'm going to be organized. And I was organized until Monday, October 24th. 3rd. Alright. So I started a new thing. This bonus coverage you get besides the curriculum. Yesterday the word was kakistocracy. Anybody remember what that means? You weren't in here yesterday, so I'm going to have a word of the day. So I'm going to try to pick out a kind of an obscure word that is used but not used all the time. Kakistocracy. Anybody remember what that was? I used it last year in civics. Yeah. Well, you were in civics yesterday.
People who aren't qualified.
Well, so a few years ago I was lamenting, thinking about like the world and the country and the government, and I'm like, it's almost like you gotta put it away. You gotta put it away. I can't. And I'm supposed to have that, what's that thing called? Yeah. Keep forgetting. Anyways, where was I?
You were lamenting.
Yes. So, and I'm thinking to myself, throughout history, and we just did the Roman Republic, so throughout history, people are looking for the best and brightest among them. Hey, we'll have them be our leaders. The Romans had the Senate, right? Even we have a Senate. And it's like, people throughout history, if you want to have a civilization, a successful one, you pick the best and brightest among you, right? Well, there has to be a word for a society that it almost seems like it's on purpose, does it not sometimes? We're going to pick the least among us. The least qualified, the least desired as far as morality and all those things. So I looked it up and there actually was a word. It's called kakistocracy. You picking up what I'm laying down, Ben? So as we look around the political landscape of America, we're like, how do these people get elected? And what does it mean if you're living in a kakistocracy? And if the people are apathetic about the kakistocracy, can we overcome the kakistocracy? You guys all right? All right. Oh, so one more thing before we do the crossword. By the way, get your crossword puzzles out because Brett knows you get how many points? Or is it an epidemic in the one table yesterday that the first period found out, like, what? We were supposed to do those? Before we get to that, yesterday, speaking of government, we finally got a Speaker of the House, and I wasn't really up on who this guy was, but in conjunction with something that I'm probably going to talk about over the next 10 days because I have to. And I have to have it like you thinking about it as 18-year-olds, as future voters. You thinking about it, maybe it's conversation at home, maybe it's conversation with some other adults in your life. And we've got, listen, this is a serious thing. We've got 10 days, Christians, to make sure that everybody we know that it's in our circle that understands what's going on, Landon, with issue 1 in 12 days. Because this is a major thing. We are in spiritual warfare if you haven't figured it out. The whole point to doing UTT, to understand the times, to realize the battle that we're in. This is not just like a political battle, ideas. It's spiritual at its root. And especially with secularism and Marxism, we got to figure that out. and know where the enemy's coming from and know what they think of us, right? So in looking up who this Mike Johnson was, we finally have a Speaker of the House, and I didn't really know much about him, so this morning as I'm getting ready, I'm playing this in the background, and I come across this one. So it's a conjunction of who is this guy? Is he going to be quote unquote good for America from a biblical Christian point of view? And we have this. Now at the end of this, I don't know what to tell you other than if you don't understand the reality of what we're up against, you're going to see at the end of this video. It's kind of amazing. And this woman, this abortion advocate, she's a pretty good symbol of how they think.
Thank you. Dr. Robinson, I asked you earlier how one qualifies as being fully human. And you responded by saying that no one becomes a human, or that someone does become a human at the moment of birth. And I found that absolutely stunning, since you are not a political activist or an advocate, but you present yourself and purport to be a medical doctor. Your answers deny the plain truth of science and medical technology that anyone can see and understand, even if they don't have a medical degree. Obviously, I don't need to cite volumes of medical journals to prove the fact that an unborn child is a human being. As the Life Training Institute summarizes, quote, "From the earliest stages of development, the unborn are distinct, living, and whole human beings. They are not mere parts of larger human beings, like skin cells are, but whole human entities capable of directing their own internal growth and development. This is not just a religious view, but a matter of the science of embryology." In its 1859 report on criminal abortion, the American Medical Association, no less, acknowledged that, quote, "The independent and actual existence of the child before birth as a living being was a scientific truth. Nothing has changed since that time. For more than 150 years, doctors have known that life begins at conception." A 1981 report to the United States Senate states, quote, "Physicians, biologists, and other scientists agree that conception marks the beginning of the life of a human being, and a being that is alive is a member of the human species. There is overwhelming agreement on this point in countless medical, biological, and scientific writings," unquote. So there's a picture up here. This is not a mere clump of cells. This is not an animal or some unknown species. Ma'am, that's a human being. And all of you here are confusing human value with human function. You are defining personhood by what somebody does rather than what they are. Scott Klusendorf summarized it this way. He said, although human beings differ immensely with respect to talents, accomplishments, and degrees of development, they are nonetheless equal because they share a common human nature. Humans have value simply because they are human. And if you deny this, it's difficult to say why objective human rights should apply to anyone.
Okay, are you listening? Because he only has 5 minutes and he's packing a lot of information there and covering a lot of territory. This idea of civil rights or human rights, where does it come from? It comes from the fact that these people that go around the world, some of the same people that go around the world and protest and fight for quote unquote human rights. And they also claim they only operate according to science. So he's doing a masterful job of outlining who they say they are and how the holy grail of secularism, one of the holy grails, my body, my choice, clouds what otherwise they say they believe in. But this idea, for whatever reason, that started in 1960s and gained momentum over the last 60 years, and actually we've kind of slowed the momentum a little bit, praise the Lord, but this idea that what trumps everything is this my body, my choice. I mean, if you studied it more deeply, you'd figure out exactly how we got there. But that's the reality. It clouds their judgment about science. That's supposed to be another one of their holy grails, that everything's about science. It clouds their judgment about human rights. They can't even admit the person's a human. Even though they know, and you'll find out at the end, when she answers, she has such a hard time answering because she knows that it's a human being. And how do I overcome that knowledge that I know, but I can't say because it goes against one of the sacraments of their religion, the religion of secular humanism?
As I noted earlier, it is a self-evident truth that all human beings are made by their Creator and endowed by Him with certain inalienable rights. The first listed in our Declaration is the right to life. Since the medical doctor here wants to deny the facts and reality, let me ask the abortion advocate, Ms. Armbide, to answer my questions on this subject. Ma'am, you testified that you are, quote, unapologetic in seeking unrestricted abortion access. So I'm wondering, at what point is it not okay to abort a child? What age of gestation?
I trust all people to determine what they can and can't do with their bodies, full stop.
Okay.
I also believe that
Listen,
human
I see
rights...
some of you looking at it and you don't understand, this is real. She's the voice of the people that think the way they do. Full stop. It doesn't matter what question you're asking me. I believe a person has a right to do with their own body. Full stop. What about the science? Full stop. What about the morality? Full stop. I know nothing but Christ and Him crucified. What's the difference? What's the difference? They're both religious statements. Secular humanism is a religion. Full stop.
rights, including access to medical care that they need within their communities, is something that should be afforded everyone.
Great. Okay, so you support late-term abortion?
I support all people and trust...
That means late-term abortion. Do you support partial birth abortion? In other words, the child is half delivered, and then the woman says, my right, I want to take that one out. You support that?
I trust people to make decisions about their body.
Wow. Okay. What about so abortion should be allowed then, by your definition, for any reason, for any purpose, at any stage, right?
I trust people to make decisions about their body, and then when relevant, I think that they need to consult their medical practitioners
Okay.
and not
If it is,
Congress.
listen, let me just ask you this question.
Oh,
If
she
it is
is
not
answering.
lawful and
Stop.
morally acceptable to take the life of a 10-year-old child, I assume you agree with that, right? That would be wrong, correct?
I believe that...
Okay, and a 2-year-old child, same thing, that would be murder, we would all agree that's wrong. Then what is the principal distinction between the human being that is 2 years old, or 9 months old, or 1 week old, or an hour old, than one that is 8 inches further up the birth canal in the utero? What's the difference? Why is it okay in the latter case and not the former cases?
I trust people to determine what to do with their own bodies.
Wow.
Full stop.
Wow, full stop indeed. And that describes right there exactly what this is about. There's a legal issue here, but underneath that is a moral issue. It's about reality. It's about science, the advancement of medical technology. You're talking about unborn children. And your full stop is that you will support the termination of that child at any time. And that is frightening, and that is why this decision should be turned to the popular will of the people, and hopefully they'll protect the sanctity of every single human life and live up to the standards of our Declaration of Independence. I yield back.
So anyway, combination of that, which is happening in 12 days, and he is the new Speaker of the House, and I was like, who is this guy? Do I really trust this guy? I think I'm warming to him.
That's what I'm saying.
What's that?
I believe this, after he was elected, he asked everybody to bow their heads.
Oh, sure, yeah. And the other videos I've seen,
Speaker of the House.
Mike Johnson, Louisiana.
Who's the other chick?
Who's the what?
The other chick. The chick who's in
Abortion advocate. There's another one where he's talking to a doctor, and it's the same answers. They all have the same answers because they all come from the same belief system, the same religion. You know, we have the sacraments of communion, they got the sacrament of abortion. That's just all there to it. You gotta have that right. Okay, I believe your class, the first class, didn't have all the notes done. We get short-circuited a little bit because of attendance and announcements and such. You guys have all of this, right? This is the last slide. You got all that? Because we had some trouble yesterday, especially with the slide before this, and one of the answers was post-theological. You know, we live in a postmodern, yeah. Some people say post-Christian, yeah. Another term is post-theological world. All right, crosswords. Santa Claus is coming to town. 3 points. Rich, 3 points here. Or not. You don't remember that fifth grade? Oh, you got the answers down there. There was a reoccurring theme, first period. Why is there a distinction between boys and girls in getting the crossword puzzle? Help me with that. Why is there a distinction between boys and
I thought it was
girls?
gonna be to do.
I'm just stating the facts. What's that?
I thought it was gonna be to do. I guess honestly.
That was,
We have wisdom. Oh, he's taking points.
I did that, it was all by myself.
What you talking about?
I should focus on this.
I just thought this was the guide for the test. That's what I thought.
Yeah, for example.
Right, we've been playing this
You never
since
said
freshman year.
it's gonna be a grade.
Yeah.
It always is.
It's always a grade, right? Come on.
It's fine. We good.
Oh my goodness.
Alright, here we go.
I'm starving.
Remember how this works. When I call him Brett, he's going to answer the question and then he's going to get a follow-up.
Oh,
Ready?
yeah.
Alright. Number 1. Life from, this is a principle we learned about secularism. Life from, you know that one?
We had nothing.
Life from non-life. Why is that in there?
Good job, Rachel.
Listen. Secularism says that everything is based on science, right? Everything's biological. What's the study of life? Okay, so everything's biological, everything's about science. Okay, so how do we get life? How did life come into being? From non-life? What? No, not from God. From non-life. What? Explain that. Well, we can't. And the reason you don't understand it is because you don't have enough faith to be an atheist. Like, what do you mean, life from non-life? How's that? Explain that. They can't. Number 4 across, closely related to secularism. Next week we go from secularism to Emma. Marxism. No, I was trying to wait for Emma. Marxism. And we said that when it came to, look, when it comes to worldviews, secularism and Marxism are very closely related, gentlemen. They just disagree on what do we do about these Christians? The secularist wants to secularize you. They want to, debate and get you to see things their way and change your mind. Where the Marxist isn't necessarily concerned about that, but they do want you to change. They want you to understand that you can't put God above the state, because the state is the institution that has to make sure that the haves and the have-nots are put on an equal playing field. We have to be able to take from those that have the means and give it to those that have the needs. From each according to his means, to each according to their needs. Now, both of them are very happy when they can convince you, and they both dominate higher education, secularists and Marxists, and they can't wait, especially, to be able to interact with and quote-unquote educate, indoctrinate Christian young people. Because, not my words, theirs, you are useful idiots if they can get you, hey, it's okay to hold on to, hey, it's okay if you're Christian, just so you don't really live like that. Just so you don't really, that's not really what's dominating the way you make choices in life. You understand? Useful idiots. That's what they consider you when you read their literature amongst themselves. The idea that there could be this quote-unquote progressive Christianity or Christian left. They love that concept. That's right. People like that are right where they want you. Next, number 7 across, secularist claim. I gotta go faster. M, that they're unbiased. Come on. They're claiming they're unbiased because they're saying you're biased. You're biased by your faith, right? the fact that your faith is informing most of your opinions, beliefs, actions, makes you biased. Of course, they're not biased, right? Because everything supposedly to them is empirical, objective, testable, right? Life from non-life. A human being, 30 seconds from being born, isn't a human being. What? And that's objective science. We are just DNA machines. One of the prominent figures in atheism, secularism says, you know what, we're just DNA machines. And then we should be treating each other as such. Yep.
Richard Dawkins.
Dawkins. Don't confuse him with Stephen Hawking. Number 12, the Blank Manifesto. There was one, the first one was written in 1933. The Humanist Manifesto was written in 1973. That's part 2. Number 13, this guy was just called a respected philosopher. Most of these are respected philosophers in secularism, but the only one that fits is Voltaire. And Voltaire is actually above most of the other ones. He's kind of the foundation coming out of the Enlightenment of, hey, woo, listen to this Voltaire guy. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Father of modern education.
Nietzsche.
Who?
Nietzsche.
No, but he informed this man. Nietzsche's
Dewey.
Dewey. D-E-W-E-Y. What's the difference between education, the first 160 years of, or 70 years of American life, and modern education? Remember, some of you didn't know what the 3 R's were, because all the words don't start with R. Reading, writing, arithmetic, right? The foundations of education and knowledge. He says, well, we can't just teach people knowledge. We got to socialize them. This is the beginning of indoctrination. That we have to socialize them, secularize them. It's not enough to teach them how to read, write, math, science. We also have to work on socializing and secularizing them. That's what's going to be best for society. Again, why you have to indoctrinate them. Oh, by the way, to answer the question, if anybody ever asked, you have to be prepared to have an answer, right? Because I love when I get this question. Isn't that what you do? Yes? Okay. Because oftentimes we will accuse public education and universities indoctrination, right? You've heard that word? You've heard people say that, right? They're just places where they try to indoctrinate kids. And then they try to turn it around and say, well, isn't that what you do at Heartland? And I say, yes, of course we do. What do we teach? What's the root word of indoctrination? Doctrine. Very important to know doctrine. Hello? What do they teach? Doctrine. Secular humanism is a religion. Which one are you following? Are you following who you say you're following? Or are you, as the later answer is going to be, living a life of practical? What's the answer later in the puzzle? Are you really following the religion of biblical Christianity and not secular humanism? Are you following practical atheism? What number are we on? Hinders progress. What hinders progress? Well, Christianity, but even more than Christianity. Spirituality. The whole idea that we've got these people through. It's so frustrating when you have to deal, if you're a secularist, with these people that think there's something outside of the world we're living in. If we can just get them to see that all that really matters is the here and now, and we can fix all the world's problems with our human intellect, and get rid of all these people that want to rely on, and prayer, meditation, yoga. We got to get rid of these people and their influence on the world. You with me, Drew? No, you're not with them, you're with me. You're not with them, you're with me, right? Spirituality hinders progress. Evolution as a fact. This person taught evolution was a fact. Very, very, very influential mid-20th century paragon of science. I mean, at least have the decency, if you're going to teach this, to tell the children that it's a theory, right? If you believe in science, this is the contradiction, this is the hypocrisy. At least have the decency to tell children it's a theory, it's not fact. One theory of how we got here is evolution, right? Why can't you teach all the other ideas? Why do they fight so fiercely to not include the other worldviews, the other view of how we got here? Yeah. Carl Sagan, billions and billions of stuff. Post-human world. Anybody in their board time, like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna look into that. Mr. Franken said there's actual people that are out there trying to promote transhumanism. Is that really true? Anybody do that? Probably not. They want to create a post-human, transhuman world. I mean, wouldn't that be perfect? If we can combine, things like AI and robotics and biology, what a perfect species. What a, quote unquote, what a perfect being that would be if we can combine human with robotics, AI. Span of time. Why do we call this what we call it? Secularism. Because secular means a span of time, one generation. All we care about is here and now. 26 across. We found one thing we have in common, I hope. If you're a biblical Christian, or you're a secularist, like a sincere intellectual, you actually do believe that all you care about is intellectualism, rationalism, and scientism, and naturalism, and rational. If you actually do believe that, and you believe you're a biblical Christian, then you share this. That we live in a very anti-intellectual culture. You see it in the art, the music, and the music. I'm sorry, what? 22 was secular. That's what the word means. We should just care about what's going on now. Why, dear teacher, Heartland Christian, are you so concerned with this thing you call eternity, some afterlife, when there isn't one? All there is the here and now. All there is the physical. You should be concentrating on how do we fix the problems in the world right here, right now, for your life, or maybe for your children. And that's been. So 26 was anti-intellectual. You see it in the movies, music, and then music. Blamed for the worst. What did it mean? What's the context? What do you mean Christianity is blamed for the worst? Especially in what civilization? Roman, Greek, which then we call capital W, Western civilization, right? All the ills of Western civilization can be traced back to Christianity. Big thing for them is the Crusades, right? So when they really want to go after Christianity and they try to use hypocrisy, then they'll bring up the Crusades, and of course the Crusades were all the Christians' fault. We try to remedy that a little bit in world history, because that's the dominant view. Christianity is to blame for all the bad things about Western culture, and of course, Greek wisdom, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, they're the foundation for all the good that comes from Western civilization. Area of secular domination. We gave it to you as an acronym. Acronym, sorry. Not an acronym. Did I write an acronym on there? Acronym. MEGA. Which one fits? Media, education, government, or arts? Media. They dominate. Listen, this was a purposeful, this was designed. We need to get all of people, we need to go into fields like education and media. And until Christians win those places back and take control of the narrative again, what, me? How are you going to change the world? No, but you're one, look, like one pebble dropped into the water, and you affect those people around you. And those people affect those people around them. And those people affect those people around them, that ripple effect. If you ever get to the place, Drew, where you and I go like this, well, it is what it is, nothing I can do, then we're definitely done. True? Suggested supernatural force. This is a person. Get this, you might be surprised, Jamin, to find out that this guy, the foundation of all secularism, really, suggested that there was a supernatural force after he did all his studies. Jamin, who is it? Charles Darwin's the answer to 29 across. Number 30 across, prominent atheist author. Hitchens, Christopher Hitchens. Go on YouTube, look up Christopher Hitchens, debates, Frank Turek, many other Christians. Okay, I gotta go fast. Two down, deists. These two people are held up as, like, again, they want to argue against, say, the biblical foundation of America. There were 56 signers you watched last year in civics about the signers of the Declaration and the Constitution, but 56 signers of the Declaration, and overwhelmingly Christian, right? But if you look at the writings of two, the most prominent, you can say, well, they're not really biblical Christians. Jefferson and Franklin. Acronym of control, MEGA, media, education, government, arts. That's definitely on there, right? There's going to be 4 of the questions on the test. Bingo, bango, bongo. Did you ever play bingo, bongo, bango, and golf? Anybody? First on, first in.
We did volleyball.
Number 5. Human reason rules. Hey, what rules? What should be ruling the arena is human reason. What is that?
Logic.
Rationalism.
Rational.
Logic doesn't
That is
fit.
the king of our life.
Yes, that's good. You're thinking. Thank you very much for actively participating in today's class. Research company. We often refer to this company. They do research, especially when it comes to morality, Christianity, religious views. We showed you like the correlation between you as teenagers and your parents and your religious views. They are called the Blank Research Company. Pew, P-E-W. Who is the foremost the idea of psychoanalysis in psychology goes back to this guy, Sigmund Freud. Freudian psychology, getting at the roots of why you think the way you do and why you act the way you do in your subconscious. If we can unlock that, you can help understand yourself as primarily sexual beings. Only physical exists. What word fits? Does naturalist fit? Does materialist fit? Does materialism fits? Hold on, we got 3 more minutes. Practical, Sydney, atheism. The idea that, listen, you gotta take some self-inventory. What we've been focusing on for the first quarter of your senior year. While you're asking yourself, is my faith mine? Am I a Christian? Am I really living a practically atheist worldview? As I said, I'm talking to myself too. As I stand here before you as your Bible, UTT Christian teacher, what's the difference between how I live, the choices I make, and the secular world? And if I don't contemplate that, am I just delusional. Practical atheism. Number 14, rationalism, empiricism. What was it? And the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment. Hey, coming out of this period of history where the church dominated, you had the Dark Ages, where the church and the state were trying to figure out who's going to rule the people, back to the feudal days, and the Enlightenment. Hey, the light bulb went on, you know? Like, we as humans can figure all this out. We drift away from our need for God, so we think. The co-author of the Humanist Manifesto. His name was Roy Sellers, S-E-L-L-A-R-S. Whether you encounter him or not, he's not as prominent, but he wrote a prominent book. We live in a postmodern world. Yes, doesn't fit. Some people call it a post-Christian world. About more than 20 years ago, I would start hearing of people talking about Europe being post-Christian. You go to Europe, and it's like churches are almost obsolete. That's true too, but the word we're looking for is post-theological. Number 21 down. We want to rely on knowledge through experience. Faith, no. Experience. It's called, starts with an E. Empiricism. Get this. We know that there's a difference between the physical brain and the abstract mind. But they are so bent on everything being physical that they'll try to convince you that morality even is biological, not theological. Two more. Traditional morality is invalid. This guy, listen. If you've never heard of him before this last week, another one of those giants. You got Darwin, and you got this guy, Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche, you'll hear it pronounced. We got to quit relying on traditional morality, which is based on biblical principles, and realize that we as humans can figure it all out. And the last one, this guy says that evolution should be at the core of all education. Julian Huxley, another prominent, more modern day atheist, secularist. We'll leave secularism with this final thought that you need to know. Secular humanism is a religion.
You know I have to answer that, right?
Do you ever want to Tyler copied you.
Let's go. What's up?
Did you ever have us turn in these right here, the chapter 4 questions?
Thank you. Because,
You want that?
like I said, I'm going to be forced on a deadline to get it done.
Then also